All right, it's a very beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. And my name is Emmanuel Ojadegele. I welcome you to the show. Just as we've gotten to the middle of the week. It's Wednesday, April the 12th of 2023. Now let's tell you that a lot of issues have been coming out now. The APC has officially responded to the petition of the Labour Party, and the PDP is also filing its own petition. So it's going to be legal fireworks anytime from now. And that's what we have for you, and some other stories on the faces of the newspapers this morning. Remember to follow us live on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And do have to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, do not forget we're reaching you live from StarTimes channel 190 on the DTT platform. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. We'll take this quick break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the papers immediately.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take
All right, so we have the papers for you already now. The Punch newspaper, The Nation, The Guardian, and of course, Daily Trust this morning. All the papers that we have for you to check out. Once again, it's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. And it's the midweek edition of the program, just as so many things are unraveling are beginning to happen in the country this time, and particularly in the aftermath of the February 25th and March 18th elections that held across the country in just this year, and a lot of jostlings and bustlings and lobbying have begun for positions, even at the executive level. Rumors, stories flying here and there over key juicy positions, and that will be in the cabinet of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he's eventually sworn in on the 29th of May. But let's start with the papers for you this morning now. We'll begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper is where we begin, and the banner headline says Tinubu won presidential poll, INEC tells Tribunal. On page 2, Tinubu won presidential poll, INEC tells Tribunal. And the writers there says President-elect clinched 1/4 of valid vote cast in 29 state electoral umpire. Losing FCT, high rev hiccups can't invalidate APC victory, says INEC. Naturally, you would expect INEC to defend the elections that it conducted, and whoever it declared winner, that's how it works with electoral umpires and all of that. You don't, I don't expect INEC to go to court and say that the elections they conducted were faulty or were not in compliance with the Electoral Act. So you can expect INEC's responses to all of the petitions to be along this line, seeking yesterday to dismiss that of the Labour Party, and now replying that of the PDP, saying that Tinubu actually won a presidential poll and he got all of the valid votes necessary to be declared winner. Well, below that, you have pictures of Nigerians who are returning from other African countries, particularly Libya and Chad. 256 stranded Nigerians rescued from Libya and from Chad, as on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. Page 20 of the Punch newspaper, you see Nigerians returning from Lake Chad there, and from Chad and Libya, part of the voluntary repatriation and return movement at the behest of the International Migration Organization. And at the bottom strip, Rosevive urge Jandor as tribunal to sack Sanwo-Olu. On page 12, it's been a long time coming. People had been expecting those two candidates to file their own petitions challenging the declaration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as winner of the March 18th elections in Lagos State. And so it's no surprise. It's not coming as a surprise at all. And on page 13, assault, police to begin trial of 3 Rivers Kano cops. Very heartwarming there to see that those men, if you remember on Spring Trends, I showed you the men who began to shoot or who shot their weapons while guarding the, what's it called now, the precinct of the APC in Kano. They've been arrested, and of course the 3 men who were involved in the assault of that young man in Rivers, they've also been arrested and will be facing prosecution internally first with the police. That's on page 13 of the Punch newspaper. But on page 4, some sad story coming out yesterday from Osun State. Mob beats OAU student to death over stolen phone. Reports say that's not the first time it will be happening. But, we've always said, and I will always say it personally, that mob action, jungle justice is never the way to go. The young man who was killed in Ondo State now, some videos coming out revealing that some persons actually didn't, it was just some sort of envy. The young man wasn't even a ritualist, but because I listened to the video, I watched it yesterday, and some of the things that were said by the people who killed that young man reeked really of envy, talking about you can't wear a pair of pants worth 20,000. You can't dress up. If you wear whatever is up to 150,000, then you're a ritualist. I mean, that's poverty mentality. But that's on those state. In OAU, it's really condemnable that a fellow student can be beaten to death. Even if he did steal that phone, it was nobody's business to have taken laws into their hands. And I hope the perpetrators are brought to book. They are caught. Brought to book and made to face the music. Now on page 2, House leadership, pro G5 reps plot to scuttle PDP plans. Pro G5 reps plot to scuttle PDP plans. Seems we've not seen the last of the G5 politics within the PDP. Now it's going all the way to the National Assembly. And remember, there are also plans to form something called the majority. I can't remember now. All of the minorities in the House wanting to come together to form the majority to upstage the majority APC. And on page 9, National Assembly proposes jail term for Ponzi scheme promoters. I agree. It is important that especially celebrities who endorse all of these schemes, who take ambassadorial deals from them, and then when things go sideways, you're quick to dissociate yourself from the scheme. I mean, some persons would have invested in that scheme simply because of the influencer or the celebrity who promoted it. So I think that as much as the scheme people, the owners of the scheme themselves face persecution, those who promote should also face litigation. But on page 27, Amcon bars Arik Air founder from airlines premises on page 27 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And those are the stories that done in the face of that paper for you.
On the Guardian newspaper this morning, doctors demand salary review before May 29. Doctors demand salary review before May 29. That's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And the writers say UK counterparts begin strike over pay. NARD wants payment of reviewed 2023 medical residency Training Fund. Admonishes reps on obnoxious bill sponsored by Johnson. To summon NEC, that's NEC meeting in 2 weeks on next line of action. And that's still on the demands of doctors in Nigeria. Doctors are demanding a salary review before May 29, before the president-elect is sworn in on May 29. And then another story there. But burden of proof, much ado about Tinubu's assets declaration. Burden of proof, much ado about Tinubu's assets declaration. That's on page 4 of the newspaper. Well, I don't think it's news that all public office holders must declare their assets before assuming office and after, just before leaving office as well. This is standard procedure, and I don't think that there's really anything to say about much ado about Tinubu's asset declaration. He should declare his assets before his assumption of office. And to the next story, Sports Minister under fire over 21 billion naira request to fix National Stadium. Sports Minister under fire over 21 billion naira request to fix National Stadium. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, if we're going to get that amount of money for the renovation of a stadium or anything at all, I think a breakdown of how the money will be spent should be in order. And so it would give, credence to whatever it is you're asking for. But then moving away from that story to page 15, IMF retains Nigeria's economic growth projection at 3.2% as global inflation decelerates. That's on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. To page 29 of the Guardian newspaper, allow APC choose National Assembly leadership. Wike tells opposition. Allow APC choose National Assembly leadership. Wike tells opposition. Well, to me, I don't know where Wike stands at this time. It still stays in the PDP and is advocating for another party, to have some sort of leadership position. Well, I think it's time that this party begins to look towards a possible sanction for him and his Pro G5, counterparts. But that's all we have on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Well, like I did say yesterday on the show or some days ago, it's good to see major media houses now latching onto the social media backlash on the Minister of Sports, Minister of Youth and Sport Development, Sunday Dare, over his request for 21 billion naira to fix the National Stadium. It's coming at a time, like I said, when a huge amount of money being mentioned everywhere, 12 billion naira for trucks, 800 million naira for subsidy, palliative, some sort of amount for the sensors, and just huge amounts being mentioned. And it's good that people are beginning to see it's no longer business as usual what the government just says. We need this certain amount, we're going to use this amount to do this, and nobody asks questions. And now people, I saw some comments on Twitter, some persons detailing how they would spend less than 21 billion naira to renovate that stadium, to bring it back to life, and saying that the sports minister really doesn't need 21 billion naira. If he wants to fix it, he can fix it with lesser amount. But then we hope that when it's time for him to fix it, when it's time for all of those things to be done, there will be transparency, there will be accountability on the part of the sports minister and indeed the federal government. Let's move on to The Nation this morning. The National newspaper banner headline there is also about the petitions flying everywhere now in the country. It says Atiku did not meet conditions to win, INEC tells Tribunal. The commission replies PDP candidates, as the writer now replies PDP candidates petition. FCT has no special status. Obi's petition should be dismissed. Now, I said earlier that it's important that INEC comes out to defend itself and the election that is conducted. It will be rare for you to see anyone, and maybe a football referee come out to say, oh, I performed woefully. The person who won, well, we've seen cases like that recently in the Premier League with the referee bodies coming out to apologize to clubs, with the most recent being Brighton in that match against Tottenham, where the referee association had to say, look, there should have been a penalty for Brighton. We saw it, we didn't see it, we didn't take note of it, it's a mistake, we're sorry. But that cannot happen with INEC, because they are already under fire, and coming out to admit any sort of mistake or any sort of misdeed would turn the entire thing around on its head. It will now be difficult to come back. There will be so much aspersions, and I reckon that's why INEC is choosing to stick to its guns, to say, no, look, we conducted this election in line with the Electoral Act. Well, these persons didn't win and all of that.
It's not enough to declare to the tribunal that the elections were conducted free and fair, or that somebody particularly won. It should be enough when the court finds, justifiable evidence to prove whatever it is that INEC is stating categorically at the tribunal.
Okay, away from that story now, see the pictorial there, the picture there. Some of the stranded Nigerians on arrival at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, yesterday, in relation to the story on the Punch newspaper this morning, where some Nigerians have returned or are being returned from other African countries, this time from Libya, from Chad. But 104 returned from Libya in total. There are 256, including those from Chad. And I am glad to see these people come back. When it's no longer green on the other side, you return home. That's how it is. And you cannot fault them for wanting to seek greener pastures. But at the same time, when it becomes difficult, instead of resorting to crime and giving yourself and the nation a bad name on the international stage, the only wise thing to do will be to return home and try to start afresh. And we hope that all of these persons get settled and that they find the strength to restart all over again. Now, that's on page 6. You can get details of that story there on the Nation newspaper. Akpabio remains in Senate president race, page 6. Don't forget that there are clamors for that Senate presidency to be given to the Southeast or to the South. Some rotational politics, the APC saying it has not decided yet. The PDP doesn't have a dog in the fight because they aren't in the majority, but still having some say in the principal offices. So let's wait and see what the APC will decide. I reckon they're waiting for the swearing in to happen before they take a position on zoning key positions in the National Assembly. And on page 27, Lagos Assembly stops government appointees. Lagos Assembly stops government appointees. That's on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. Above the banner headline, Ondo promises justice for slain Yahoo boy. The Yahoo boy is in quote. I wonder why it is still being used. And at this point, I think it's deliberate. I have noticed, I read something yesterday that I reckon with, that resonates with me. The easiest way to justify any sort of crime in this country is to make the victims, is to put the victim in a particular category. If a lady dies in a hotel, just call her a sex worker and watch people justify it and say, oh yeah, she got what she deserved, she shouldn't have gone there. A young man is killed, just call him a robber or call him a fraudster and watch people come to the defense of those who carried out the heinous act. But the question is, at the time he was beaten to death, who ascertained, who gave them that clear-cut answer that this person is a fraudster? The answer is nobody. It was just, I saw that video yesterday, I listened to it, and I was shocked at the kind of envy people could carry in their minds. The things that were said about that young man would give you an insight into the motive behind his killing. Apparently, a lot of persons have been waiting for him to slip up, people saying stuff like, there's nothing you can tell me. If you dress up to 150K, you're a fraudster. Why is it driving that kind of car at that age? It's nobody's fault that you're wallowing in poverty or that you don't have the means. The fact that I've always said it, that your reality is not that of others. Yes, you may be struggling, you may be in the trenches. I mean, trenches now. You may have nothing. It doesn't mean that people who are your age will not excel. You see a young man driving a car, you don't know if his parents are rich, you don't know if he works a remote job, you don't know if he has something he's doing to better his own life. But because, people who are, they say that misery loves company. People who are miserable love to see other people miserable just to console themselves. And that's what happened in Ondo State. That's what I believe happened in Ondo State, because I was very careful not to make any pronouncement until I saw that video at the scene. The young man was beaten to death in the presence of his parents. How do you tell a parent that your son was beaten to death because people thought he was a fraudster? What if he wasn't a fraudster? What if, we should be able to calm down, and I don't know why media houses are also doing this. Putting that in quotes reinforces the message. Not everybody understands the place of quotation marks and all of that. People believe that you're just labeling the person Yahoo boy. I think we need to stop that. We need to stop being so envious and really, really wicked in this country. And here in Osun State, Osun teenage girls traffic are held. Saw that story. Some girls went to party, they were drugged, woke up, and they were on their way to Libya. And thankfully, their trafficker has now been held. We hope that NAPTIP and every other agency involved in the prohibition of trafficking in persons would take up action and ensure that it doesn't go scot-free. And just below the nameplate, World Bank predicts global high unemployment, inflation, slow growth. Some dire warning from the World Bank there. And now it's down to governments, respective government, to make policies to change the trajectory of their policy decisions and ensure that all of their actions are judged towards, some mitigating these dire warnings. Wike, above the nameplate on page 5 of the Nation newspaper, PDP cannot hijack National Assembly leadership. Wike has been in the news again, going back and forth with Dino Melaye, now talking about PDP hijacking the National Assembly leadership. And people are beginning to draw attention to the fact that IU has resigned, but Wike is still playing his G5 politics. So maybe, just maybe, it was never about Iyorchia Ayu in the first place. Now on page 4, Nigeria may lose $23 billion to crude theft this year. Speaker warns. It's on page 4 of the Nation. Amici fired me from NPA over contract dispute. That's on page 5. APC holds primaries in Imo, Bayelsa, Kogi weekend. Page 4, those are some of the states where you have the off-cycle election. The governorship election in those states will be coming up much later this year. And the APC will be holding primaries in those states by the weekend. Well, that's all on the Nation newspaper.
Well, quickly to the Daily Trust newspaper. The banner headline says, leaked audio, FG, ACF, others blast OB. And the riders, clear yourself, Ohanaeze challenges Labour Party candidate. It's ploy to divert attention from Obi's petition. That's according to a Afenifere leader. And Arewa elders warn Labour Party candidate against unguarded utterances. Arewa elders warn Labour Party candidate against unguarded utterances, and that is on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Remember, the headline says, leaked audio, federal government, ACF, others blast OB. And to the next story, to page 8 of the Daily Trust, Raps finger Malami, Ahmed, others in $2.4 billion oil revenue scam. That's Raps finger Malami, Ahmed, others in $2.4 billion oil revenue scam. And to page 10, IMF urges CBN to continue raising interest rate. IMF urges CBN to continue raising interest rates. But I wonder what that portends for the common man who seeks, loan, or for the banks. And then to the next story on the Daily Trust on page 15, Jay's Bank increased gross profits by 2.3 billion naira in 2022 Jay's Bank increased gross profits by 2.3 billion naira in 2022, and we can still see pictures of those who have returned from either Libya or Chad captured here. That's much we have on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Well, the papers are done with, but once again, our call is to Nigerians to be patient, to not take laws into their hands, and to ensure that they don't get into trouble and do not do the wrong things. I'll take a break now. When we return, we'll bring you the interview segment of this program. Do stay with us.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally, the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Spring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. Gbadamosi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
Evelyn Ohiole,
Hi.
King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
I really feel like she's not giving the right answer to the question. When one asks you, how are you? And you said, you're saying, I'm alive. It's very annoying, seriously. How are you? I'm fine. I feel I'm fine would be the right answer instead of I'm alive. Not that I asked you if you're dead before.
Go and check all these 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, everybody, they are extraordinarily sexually active.
I feel is being unnecessarily hyper when it comes to the issue of sex, because we talk about other topics and he feels so reserved. He really doesn't have anything much to say when it comes to other stuff. But when it's the issue of sex, I believe he's being unnecessarily hyper. That's when I have to pick an issue with him. I mean, it's just being unnecessarily there when we're talking about sex. Just like a child, his mom just got him his favorite chocolate or ice cream, very happy, doing as though if he doesn't have sex for a day, he's going to die.
When it comes to finance, women also support their husbands financially. You need me emotionally. You need me spiritually.
Cassie is an amazing person, but I hate the too much attached to that gender. I need you spiritually, I need you mentally. I can get these things anywhere with money. If you go by the topic was, who does marriage favors the most? I know how many jobless women they marry every Saturday. They are saying it favors you, I the vex so.
Growing up, when I was in the world, we've heard of
Who are you now?
Well, MC Too Much said, he likes saying when I was in the world. And the last time I checked, but it looks a bit innocent, facially, but deep down, is he actually out of this world? We're all in the world now. As long as you're alive, you're in the world. So MC Too Much, I beg when you talk about that. I don't want to hear that. Next time you talk about I kiss my ass.
I think they have a problem with you saying ladies are champion, and that's the problem. Always trying to attach so much importance to that gender.
It's giving insecurity, it's giving low self-esteem, it's giving a blatant display of egoism. Because at the end of the day, a man who is secured in his words, a man who is confident of who he is, will not really be disturbed as to whether women are being referred to as champions or not. I mean, at the end of the day, Joseph's a really great guy, but whether he likes it or not, women are champions.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. The 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history. It was a Euro-American trade in slaves by which 12.5 million Africans were captured from their indigenous homelands and transported via the Atlantic to Europe and the Americas. The transatlantic slave, also known as triangular trade, was the worst form of man's inhumanity to man and the most costly in human life of all long-distance global migrations. Hundreds of Africans chained tightly to plank beds in the belly of slave ships in horrific conditions were transported via the Atlantic and stripped of all human dignity on arrival in Europe and America. It is the greatest crime the Caucasians committed against the black race. It is impossible to discuss the transatlantic slave trade without a copious reference to impoverishment and underdevelopment of Africa and its peoples. The triangular trade left the continent in ruins. Western Spring Television identifies transatlantic slave trade as a watershed event in history. 21 years after World War I, the world was again thrown into the horror of another war. In September 1939, vast majority of nations across the world, including the great powers, took up arms against themselves, from which emerged two opposing military powers. Between 40 and 80 million human souls perished in the 6-year war spread across Soviet Union, Germany, Poland, Japan, Yugoslavia, the Dutch and East Indies. The casualty figures did not include the 6 million Jews that were gassed to death on the orders of Adolf Hitler at various Nazi camps. It must be stated here that the United States of America played a dominant role in World War II, but the three Allied powers played roles that ended in victory over Germany. Britain's most significant contribution to the cause of World War II was her survival of Adolf Hitler's Armada in 1940. Western Spring Television identifies
welcome back to the show. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is, from where it drops and when it drops. So we'll go to straight to our interview segment now. We have joining us live on Zoom, Bolanle Bolawole is a former editor of the Punch newspapers and a public affairs commentator, also a policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
It's my pleasure, my brother. God bless you.
Okay, so let's take a holistic look at the state of the country at the moment, state of the nation. What are your readings of where we are as a country at the moment, post-elections?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We had a very wonderful election. We had one of the best elections we have ever held in this country. I think this election ranks after the June 12, 1993 election, which every Nigerian will attest to that was free, was fair, was credible, was won freely, squarely by the late MKO Abiola, but unfortunately that election was annulled. If that election had not been annulled, if it had been allowed to stand, Nigeria would have long ago left the woods of election problems. But now we had another election that was free to a very large extent, was credible to a very large extent. We had an election that we had about 8 governors, sitting governors, losing election to the Senate. We had presidential candidates losing in their home states. We had an election where all the humongous figures we were seeing before were drastically reduced to only a few sections of the country. We had an election where the people trooped out, the youth especially, to express themselves. We had an election where even Christians, who were normally not going out to vote, went out in large numbers to vote. The last election we had was a milestone, a turning point in the history of elections in this country. And we have also seen the agitation that has followed the election, which is good for our democracy. We have seen people heading for the courts, which is also good for our democracy. But the only bad part of that election is the call for anarchy, the call for the interim national government, the call for the military to take over, which is condemnable, which everybody has condemned. Apart from that, I think everything is okay. We are good to go. We are waiting for May 29, 2023, when the president-elect will be inaugurated, and when we will begin to see him in action, see what he is able to do, begin to see whether how he goes about fulfilling his promises. We begin to see how Nigeria will start to take shape, how things will begin to move in the right direction. I think I'm very optimistic, and I'm very eager to see what will happen after May 29, 2023.
Well, you say that the elections were the best, or was the best after 1993, but many observers and many commentators have pointed out many irregularities that are enough to mar the election, as it were, and to make it appear, or to make it look like one of the best that we haven't had. What do you make of INEC's performance, particularly in the election, in relation to the quality of the process?
INEC performed very well. I went out to vote. In the presidential election, I went out to vote. In the governorship and state assembly elections, I went out to vote. I voted in 1993 elections. I was editor of the Punch at that time. I voted before that. I voted after that. And I can tell you that the election that we had was very, very okay. There wasn't a problem with accreditation. I just got there, brought out my card, they read my card, and then they took my photograph and I voted. Myself, my wife, my daughter, the 3 of us that went. It didn't take us 5 minutes to go through that. That was something that would take hours before. Now it didn't take 5 minutes. We voted. The place was peaceful. Everybody voted. Everybody went. It also wanted to wait. They waited. So the process of voting now has been simplified. The process of voting now is no longer as rancorous as it used to be. So that is one strong point that we must not forget. The beavers that they have introduced now have simplified our election, and apart from that, the beavers that they have introduced have made sure that we don't have multiple voting. That's why people say that the turnout was poor. The turnout wasn't poor. It is just that the figures that they were showing out before, humongous figures of people who didn't vote, they were just writing figures. You find that they will say that a state registered 6 million, 3 million people. Where are the people? You walk on the streets, you won't see the people. And on election day, they will write figures of 1.something million, so 800 and something, 100 and something thousand. So that still happened in some areas in the last last election, but it was not as widespread as before. So you find a situation now where the elections we are having are becoming more and more credible. We have actual voters now voting. Those figures of humongous numbers, they have been reduced to the minimum. The only thing that people complained about INEC in that election was that INEC did not upload results like they have promised. That was the only thing. And I tell people, I said, look, the Yoruba people have a problem. They say, if I say my father's masquerade, we dance. And on the last day, I discovered that it would be suicidal for this masquerade to come out and dance. I will not say because I have promised the masquerade will dance, therefore the masquerade must dance willy-nilly. No, I will not do that. I say, if you say your father's masquerade will dance and you will say that it will not dance, nobody should arrest you. INEC promised to upload results real time, but along the line, they discovered that it was not possible for them to do that. That they did that the whole election would be compromised. And they decided to vary the rule a little bit. The fact that they decided to vary the rule a little bit is not the reason why we should now condemn all the processes of the election people like Klein and Sinker. And that's why some people are doing. And then you want to ask yourself, maybe they have an ulterior motive, they have a hidden agenda that is making them to insist that, oh, this election must be uploaded. You must do it real time. As they are voting, you must be sending it to the server. The server must be recorded. But if these people, if the people who are in charge now says that they have glitches, they have hitches, or they suspect that something is going to get wrong. And we heard that on that election day, that the server of INEC was attacked 170 something times. 170 something people wanted to hijack the results midway and upload their own results. And if INEC were to allow that, have a situation where the wrong results had been uploaded, had been found their way into INEC server, it would be difficult again to say that, oh, sorry, the result we have in our server is not the actual result. So it's better to err on the side of caution, which I think INEC did. It's better to say, okay, let's get the results. We will still upload, but let us cross-check. Let us make sure that the result that we are uploading is the authentic result, which is what they have done. So if anybody is not satisfied with that, then let the people go to court, like some of people have said, some of the candidates have said they will do. Then in the interim, let INEC now sit down and say, okay, this last time we had these problems. How do we prevent the problem? Election is not a thing. It's not a thing that you can get right once and you can get everything right. You get some things right. You discover some problems here. You work on the problem areas. There are a lot of problem areas that we have worked upon now over time that we have overcome. There are still some areas that we need to work on, particularly the area of network. You want results to be uploaded real time. Is network available all over the country? There are areas where there are no network at all. Even in the cities, those of us who live in the cities where network is even better, we have glitches. So we have to work on our network. We saw that problem manifested during this naira scarcity problem. They said we should be doing transfer. You want to transfer? There is no network. You transfer, it is hanging. Is it not the same network that INEC is going to use to upload? If there is a problem with it, how can they upload? So I think those people who are just holding on to just that to now condemn the whole election.
Is that not enough ground to be dissatisfied with the entire elections itself?
It's not enough ground, sir. It's not enough ground. It's like you are throwing away the baby with the bathwater. It's not enough ground. You see, I have participated in elections and I have seen the processes. We had a time in this country when they were snatching ballot boxes. We had a time in this country when they were stuffing ballot boxes with papers. We have enough time. We have some the elections in this country when they were thumbprint, when a single person would thumbprint everything. We had in a time in this country when there will be no election at all, the results will come out. We had a time in this country when before you have gone to before election at all, the results have already been known. So we had a time, we have such times in this country. Now we have moved away from that. We have made a lot of progress. I don't like the way some people are rubbishing the progress their country has made. A progress that we should celebrate. We should allow the whole world to help us celebrate, and we should allow the whole world to help to know where we still have problems so they can help us. But they are rubbishing the whole election. They are giving Nigeria and all Nigerians a bad name. Don't you know that when you travel out of this country now, all the things they are saying about this election is what people we talk we tell you abroad. When you get to an airport, oh, so these Nigerians who are fighting by election. Oh, so these Nigerians who cannot even organize a simple election, and they are coming to our country. Whereas we organized a very good election. We organized an election that's better than those of the foreign countries we are running to now. We saw election in America now. We saw what Donald Trump did now. What happened here is it not better than what happened in America? And they are running to that America. They are writing to that to America. They are writing to Biden to come and help them. Biden himself, was he able to help himself in America? Can't we see what happened in America? So how can you now be saying that pulling down your own country, putting down your own country, and then running to foreign countries that are not better than your country, and you are saying that you are asking for it? Don't you know that that's colonial mentality? That people have not outgrown their colonial mentality. They still look up to the white man. They still look up to foreign countries. They are the ones that will come and tell your country that there must be no operation. They are the ones that must come and tell your country they must have interim national government. What kind of nonsense is that? I don't buy that at all. I don't.
Okay, so let's look at the fact now that the elections were almost marred by ethnic coloration and religious coloration. At what point did you get dissatisfied by those rhetorics coming from both the principal actors now and their supporters?
You see, there is no election that you run, whether in Nigeria, whether in UK, whether in India, whether in the United States, that you will not have colorations. I was listening to the Prime Minister of India the other time. He was talking about how they will put down the Muslim population in India. They did not want the Muslim population in India to grow up to 30%. That if the Muslim population in India to grow up to 30%, they will cause problems. And they were asking him, is that not discrimination? He said, it's not discrimination. That's their whole problem there. The Hindus there don't want the Muslim population to grow to a level that they can begin to cause problems. In other places, the problem is religion, it's ethnic. Okay, in America, don't you know that the Catholics, the Protestants, everything like that, they are not in one accord? Can't you see how the evangelicals, how they rose in support of Trump during the election in the UK? Are you going to tell me that religion is not a factor in American election? Religion is a factor. Are you going to tell me that ethnicity is not a factor in the American election? Can't you see how the blacks voted massively against Trump for Biden? Are you going to tell me that's not ethnicity? So there's ethnicity everywhere. Any election that you are going to have ethnicity, you are going to have religion, you are going to have social stratification, social status. Those are the things that determine election. How do you determine who to vote for? Is it not, you will use one criteria to decide now? I can use religion. Okay, I'm a Christian, so I want to vote for a Christian. Is that what we saw? Christian voting against Muslim ticket. Is that not what we saw? Oh, okay, I'm Yoruba, I want to vote for my candidate. I'm Igbo, I want to vote for my candidate. Is that not what we saw? 80-something% of people, 90% of people voting for an Igbo candidate. Is that how we saw? So it's everywhere. There must be something where it's a yardstick you will use to determine who you will vote for. It is not just about it's party. A few people will use party programs. Few people will use competency, and I think this person is more competent. I'll vote for this person. Other people will use other considerations. Oh, it's my town's person. I will vote for him. Oh, we are attended the same school, I'll vote for him. Oh, he's a friend to a friend of mine, I'll vote for him. So in every election, you have all this kind of coloration. But in Nigeria, we tend to think that all these things are bad. It's not bad. You see, we say ethnicity. They don't talk ethnicity outside. They talk nationality. Nationality. What we call a tribe here, they call them nationality. We have in UK, for example, you have the Scottish people. You have the Welsh people. You have the English people. You have people from Ireland. They come together. They call themselves United Kingdom. They are nationalities. They are ethnicities. In Spain, you have the people where you have this football club, Barcelona. You have them fighting for independence. We have seen the fight for independence in Ireland itself. We have seen the fight for independence everywhere. It's happening in China. It's going on in India. It's everywhere. But here we rubbish it. When somebody tells you that I want to Yoruba nation, say, hey, it's a tribalist. It's not a tribalist. It's a nationalist. He is only trying to tell you that I'm Yoruba and I want to be governed according to Yoruba rules and regulations. If you are Igbo, you also want to be governed according to your own culture as an Igbo.
All right.
If Hausa wants to be governed, that's what it is. It's nationalities. These are all nationalities. The Yoruba people, the ethnic group you call the Yoruba people, they are bigger than the United Kingdom now. They are bigger than Spain, they are bigger than France, they are bigger, and you say they are bigger than Japan, and you say that they cannot stand on their own as a country. You call them tribe. When in other countries, there are people who are not up to 5 million, they are countries. So I think our categorization is very, very poor.
All right. Thank you so much, Bolawole, there for your thoughts on the program this morning. Been insightful discussions. Thank you very much. But please give us some insight before we let you go about what's happening in the Obafemi Awolowo University, the student who was lynched. Any position of the university yet on that incident?
Yeah, I read it's very unfortunate very unfortunate situation. Why should you kill somebody because of a phone, ordinary phone? People are stealing billions, nothing happened to them, and you are just killing somebody, and it's a student, it's your colleague. If they are stolen anything, the penalty is not lynching. It's very, very unfortunate. I attended that university, and I have children in that university. At least 4 of my children are in that university, and I wouldn't be happy if I were to read and I say that it's one of my children or one of my wards. There are many wards people I take care of who are in that university. I feel very sad about it, and I'm very familiar with the administration of that university. I have a lot of people, a lot of friends there. The vice chancellor, the PRO, the registrar, the student affairs people. They are people that I know very well because I interact with that university very well. The PRO, Abiodun Olanrewaju, has issued a statement describing the incident as unfortunate. He has commiserated with the families. They have handed over the situation to the police, and they have asked for the students to maintain the peace. And I think that's what they should do. So they are investigating, and the appropriate measures will be taken.
All right.
But having said that, it is a very, very, very unfortunate incident because the person who is dead is there cannot be brought back. That's very bad. In final years to the past student. So bad, so sad.
Also, thank you very much for your time then. Do have a lovely day.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you.
So that's the first leg of the interview. We'll take a quick break and bring in our other guests to look at the lynching, 2 lynchings in 2 days, and look at some of these issues. To stay with us.
James Ajibola Ige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainage Diary, Constitution, and The People, among 6 other books. Bola Ige was a colorful politician, elected governor Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba social, cultural, and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bola Ige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television identifies Bola Ige as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back to the show. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining, thank you for staying with us. If you've been with us, we have already in the studio with us familiar face, a legal practitioner, Mr. Moses Obaditon. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, so now let's look at this issue holistically. Is there a place in the Nigerian law or in the Nigerian communal culture for jungle justice? I mean, 2 persons have been killed now, one in Ondo, one in Ife, in the space of 48 hours.
Either in our culture or in our law, there is no place there. But Thomas Hobbes, a political scientist, once described the human society as nasty, brutish. And when you come to that, that's the nature. We call it the state of nature. The state of nature is the stronger that oppress the weaker one. And so when you look at our society today, from the federal to the local level, you see this kind of Hobbesian state of nature. The strong man does not believe you have a right to life, to resources. Either directly or indirectly, he wants to suppress you. And when you retaliate or you try to ventilate or express yourself, you say, don't you know who I am? And when you come to that level, it shows to you that we are going back to that Hobbesian state of nature. So if you now look around at the bus stop, people are ventilating, people are angry, and sometimes you even hear somebody steal just 1 naira. Or you recall too, about a year ago in Lagos, a DJ was on his way home because of 100 naira between himself and the Okada man. Before you know, the guy was lynched. Ask me a question, where are those people that lynched him? That'll be the end. A year ago in Sokoto State College of Education, a lady was asked, a student, how did you manage to pass this exam? Say na Jesus also. Before we know it, the lady was lynched. What was the story? Even when people cry, they just said public disturbance. And that's the end of the story. So when you are beginning to promote, either directly or indirectly, that kind of the strong can oppress the weak, you will eventually realize that the society is moving to that nasty, brutish, and waste kind of life. So it is never in our culture, it is never in our constitution that you can take laws into your hand. But bequeath the law, or when there's a governance that does not frown at violation of its own law, when there's no sanction for violation of existing law, people will think that was the norm. And that is why where we are. Look at it. Just yesterday, in American Bank, somebody shot his colleague. Before you know it, the police are already there, here and there. About a month ago, somebody went to school, shot some student. They have apprehended. They went as far as the person stole the gun. These are the way to do things. But in our own country, if government ever bothered, they'll say, well, the government is looking to it. The president expressed his sadness over the issue. Let's even move back to Benue. Look at the massacre. in the last 5 years, I mean what I'm saying, the last 5 years, there's no week or month that passed by without 1, 2, 3, 4 people being killed. I ask you the question. You're a journalist. How many people have been brought to court? How many people have been asked to be killed? And now you look around. Some years back, there was some NYC member in Ijebu saying in one Alaji's house. And then they cry in the night, I'm robber, and the Alaji carry his gun and shot the guy. Well, the guy was not armed. The guy was just a simple burglar, thief, petty thief. And the man ran into the compound, and the man shot him there. Do you know what happened? To the Supreme Court, the man was asked to be executed. If you are looking at the Jigbadero, it's a very celebrated case. He was a land grabber in Lagos. And there was this medical doctor who was having the issue with him. And the man, while Jigbadero was conducting himself in the Mushi, doing naming ceremony, he sneaked out of the place with some people and went to this man's house. It's a very, very large portion in Alimosho. And while the man was just relaxing, these people came without light and shot the man dead. But the moon was able to expose Ejigbade's eyes and some people that came. Another woman saw. By the time the man was tried, he was convicted for murder. By the time they got to Court of Appeal, murder. To the Supreme Court, it's murder, and he went for it. There's something I can keep on giving you when law was law. But when you make law without application, people will turn the country into jungle justice. And that is the reason why we're having what we're having. Because we know, I've given you 1 or 3 people, where the 3 instances where people are killed, they are not even charged to court, and that will be the end of the story. So this cannot continue like that. And sometimes you even hear Yahoo boy kill his girlfriend. You only hear that story, and as long as the money is still available, that will be the end of the story. So these are the things that promote. It's not because our culture, it is a new, whatever I call it, norm. It's a new thing that's coming because power is responsible, but people are now using power for irresponsible purposes.
All right, so you are a legal practitioner, and you know all about people being innocent, being presumed innocent until they are guilty. The incident in Ondo State was a man who was said to be a fraudster, a Yahoo boy. That of OAU was said to be someone who had stolen a phone. Is it enough to designate crimes to people to justify them being mobbed and killed by people?
You don't need to be a lawyer to know that. That's what we call the presumption of innocence. Even if you don't even know the law. The fact that, this man, he has been alleged, the elder will say, Enishuru, be patient. Let's hear from him. Call in the police. And as soon as you go to the police, they give you a form. This statement you are making will be used against you. And then you state your facts. And even if you refuse and say, until I see my lawyer, they will allow your lawyer to come. You state your facts there. So if people who decide because this man is a kidnapper or alleged Yahoo boys and you kill them, what the law should do is that those who did that act should be arrested because they are not the courts. Only the court has power to even carry out an execution order. Do you know the police does not have a right to kill? Yes. You can only demobilize. The only condition which can bring about maybe death, maybe the person, I use the word maybe, is about to kill the police officer. And he had to defend himself in the court. And said it was when we were exchanging gun. He will not even tell you when he want to kill me. In the process, this is what happened. And so when you look around and people say they did not know the law, they did not know the law. If they have killed him or killed their son, would they not know the law? So because the society have allowed it, because the society have degenerated, do you know African society is what we call communal society? A communal society is a place where people have things in common, where you share joy and sadness. But the society has been infiltrated. Our culture has been abused. Things has changed. Everybody is now to himself and God for us all. In the communal society, the first thing they do, they say, take him to ballet. And then when you get there, they say, Omalao, why did you do this one? And then they send for his father. If there's a need to look at, maybe he has mental problem, they will call Babalawo to look at it. I'm talking of traditional society. In the modern society, when law was there, as soon as they took him to the ballet house and they knew he has been somebody like that, they will call maybe Agbefoba or somebody to take him to the police. From there, they will charge him to court. Do you know what we call these native courts before the magistrate, all this thing came? I don't remember the name they normally call it. Court Ashipa. These are local courts. It happened in the Oba's Palace. There are some people we meet, and it happened in England before the jurisprudence was developed. These people will just meet and said, okay, you are caught stealing. You know the consequence. Okay, go and be farming in that man's farm until we are satisfied. That is even before the law emerges, before the modern court. So if you find it and people now take because he stole phone and you kill him, because we allege he say and you kill him, it is because the society allow that. We have degenerated. We have not allowed the law to work. No society we have ever allowed, not even in China. In China, you cannot kill somebody. When I mean China, the communists, you know, it's not like democratic society like that. They will take you, they will listen to you before they execute the order. So that is the law. So it is not because our society now, everybody should be doing whatever he likes. No, that is not a civilized society.
Well, so the most famous lynching, as it were now, was the Alu 4 on the 5th of October 2012. Until date, there have been no, some of the suspects, 4 of them were acquitted, and just the police sergeant and some persons were sentenced to death. Now, if you look at the trajectory of that incident to what we have now, do you think that in failing to bring perpetrators to book, we've subtly encouraged this kind of action as a people?
Certainly. I'll give you a very, very known case. Some years back, some people are going towards the north, and they got to Lokoja, and they wanted to go and buy ram for the Ileya festival, and the police stopped them. So when the police noticed they have huge amount of money in their kits, they opened fire, and one of them escaped to the forest, and they set their boss ablaze. So by the one that escaped went round and announced they came for the police. The police were tried to the Supreme Court and they were asked to be killed. That serves to you as a deterrent and to be here. But today, look at what happened in Sokoto. Fellow colleagues, because they said he has said something against a particular religion, was lynched. And eventually nothing happened. There's another one. The family has to flee the north. And a church has to take them maybe either in Port Harcourt or in Warri and provide accommodation for them. We can keep on giving example of how people have been taking laws into their hand, killing people, and there will be no consequence. So in any society, either it is Africa or in anywhere, where laws are violated and people are scared, there is the tendency of people want to do the same. But where the law is thrown at and they sanction you and you go to jail, let's give you the one you remember. There was this story that happened in South Africa of that sportsman with iron leg who shot at his girlfriend. And before we know it, they was charged to court. Why that one was going on here? There was some boys in Festac. They drug a lady who was doing her master's degree, a daughter of a general. And why they did that one, and the lady eventually was sexed and was raped and killed. Why this case took 3 years in Nigeria, the Pretoria one happened within 6 months. This guy was jailed. And he said that last week, they were reviewing his case. They said, no, you still continue. Do you know next time anybody feel angry or he want to display anger against girlfriend, will he shoot like that? He will remember that case. So, but in our own society here, once the person who was a victim is the son or daughter of nobody, and the other person knows his way, if he can't maneuver, I'm giving you what happened. I'm not talking theory. Maneuver, and then the case will just be killed, and that will be the end of it. So if society is going to emerge from this kind of terrible situation, we must not allow money to be purchased, justice to be purchased with money. We must not spare anybody, no matter the level. You also recall as a journalist, there was a commissioner in Kogi State, allegedly raped a lady. The case was raised. How far? That's the end of the matter. So we can, so many of them are around like that. You don't hear it, you won't see the end. Until we begin to throw at it, let courts rule on the issue. If we don't do it, it's going to be multiplying. So It is not because there is no law. It is simply because those who are law enforcement agents, those who are supposed to bring them to court, has to deal with them accordingly. Sometimes, you know, when I hear something very grievous, they say the DPP, Department of Public Prosecution, is studying. What are they studying? I'll give that example. Why I'm making reference. The man in Kano during the election, Dogoa, was alleged to have held a gun. He didn't get license for, and eventually shot some people dead, set them ablaze. And as I'm talking to you, he has been given bail. When last did they hear the case? They can't try that in America. They cannot even try that in Ghana. There's what we call accelerated hearing. They will accelerate, give it speed, so that they can conclude before this election. As soon as this government is over, the Goa will be back in anywhere he wanted to be. We have seen there. Ali Mustafa, who used to be the essay to the Sonny Abacha. There were many allegations of people either directly or indirectly died. You will recall Kudirat Abiola, the wife of the winner of 93 election, was alleged to have been killed by one sergeant, I can't remember his name now, who shot him dead. And when they say why, he said, Mustafa give us the order that we should kill. Is Mustafa not contesting? He contested this last election. Oh, these are the things the world watch. And our society is growing because this young man today is watching television. And what you take in is what you bring out. And so we must clean the society by allowing the law, the rule of law, to have its course. No matter who you are, we should allow law to have it. Look at what happened in America. Donald Trump was brought for 34 criminal charges, not just civil, 34. And there's no way he can escape from those. Before they bring it, they will have studied, they will look at, witness they are going to call, the evidence against him. By that they bring it up, he will forget the running for another second term. But in our own country, mention 2 heads of state who have been brought after the cease to be on the seat, brought before court. So if you look at it, look at the tapping of telephone between the tapping of telephone of conversation between Obi and Oyedepo that's generating issue. It happens in America. A sitting president urged some people to go and tap the phone of their opponent. And once it was called, the man could not go for a second time because it's against the law. Anywhere. My conversation between you is our secrecy. So for anybody to tap for it, he has violated our right. But here anyway, people are even joining. Yes, now, you say this one. So until we're able to stand according to the law, the issue is not that there's no law. It is simply carrying out, allow law to have its course. All right, we hope that the appropriate authorities have been listening to us and watching us. Please allow the law to run its course so that it will be a deterrent to others who intend to break the law. Thank you so much, Barrister Obaditon, for always coming up on the show to give us your insight. Barrister Moses Obaditon is a legal practitioner and a public affairs commentator. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Well, that's why we end the show this morning. That's why we're at the interview segment. Well, do stay with us. I'll be back just shortly to tell you who is trending. Festus Keyamo is in the news, as is Wike and Dino Melaye. To stay with us.
The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts, established